UK, some of them were coming from elsewhere, to see what soil depth we can create. Again, we do not want to add to the weight on the structure. So you see all the vertical lines that you see dotted around here, this is like lightweight filler, so this is not soil. The soil depth is approximately 40 centimeters in the majority of this area, unless you want to put a tree or palm. And then there was a system that was designed specifically for this project, or developed from a previous system specifically for this project, in order to retain the soil, retain the irrigation, how the irrigation works with this system in order for all the water not to just slide down and not hold within the soil and not reach the roots of the plants. And then again, the sustainability of it in terms of irrigation water requirements, and there is a zoom in on how we try to make this happen. Now, this system was anchored onto sort of like a retention system on top of the lightweight fill or surface behind. The irrigation then went there, and it's divided into stages so that the water holds there for a certain period of time. And then when it drains all the way down the bottom, the water does not go just to drain and then to the stormwater or to waste. It gets filtered, treated, and then goes back to the irrigation tank to be used once again. And with this system, we calculate against a baseline system. I think from my memory, it was approximately 60% irrigation water saving was achieved. And the irrigation water to use here in the first place is coming from treated sewage effluent, which is TSE water. So the sustainability factors that were utilized on this project, on the biggest part of the planting on this project, was very well appreciated by the city, and we actually are very proud of how it all came around. Now, at the bottom of this mound, we created like a seat, as you can see it, like so. We played with the hardscape with the light. There is a hidden light fitting at the bottom there, and it goes all around the bottom of this project and then climbs around entry points. And this became sort of like a small feature or a nice terminality to the hill and how it touches or how it meets the ground. This goes a little bit deeper into the detail that I was just discussing, how the seat meets the finished floor, where the light is, how the irrigation and the planting are hidden like or concealed neatly beneath that area. And then again, as I mentioned before, the contractors, client, design supervision, they all worked very hard together, and it was a strict time frame in order to make sure that everything is precise and very well thought of on site. Now, this is a very nice one. On the left-hand side, this is the main entry plaza to the Museum of the Future, and you see the mouth, the top of the entry area. Now, this is where the seat climbs to create that sort of like white strip there. So there's a continuity. It's like a certain subtle sort of like accent. In the foreground, we created a simple open plaza. Number one, it needs to make space for a huge number of people or visitors that are coming to this place. Number two, it means to prepare you for what you're about to experience inside the museum itself. And we kept it simple in terms of design. You can see the ellipse formed simple offsets, and then in the middle there is a reflection pool. There's a very shallow dark water feature that reflects the building and the architecture and the surroundings. And within that, being the water feature and the hardscape around it, we created a small accent, which is the spiral that you can see. And this is supposed to reflect the evolution of ideas from the very beginning of the first idea of mankind, whether it was discovering fire or what may be, all the way until the present day, and then going through the door of the building into the future. On the next slide, you'll see more pictures of the work of art happening around there. And then you also see a glimpse of the lighting strategy that was followed for the landscape. We followed a very subtle but elegant lighting design approach, respecting the sustainability of the project in terms of not affecting the night sky. So, to be honest, this project talks about the future, and the future needs to be sustainable. So if you look at the lighting, the irrigation, the selection of materials, and how we looked at also the planting species, they are all following the same aspiration. On the next slide, you'll see an overall aerial sort of look at the project, and you'll notice that there, if you want to access the external terraces or courtyards without going into the building, there's a way of doing that, or you want to exit it at least. Some of those are carved within the hill, F&B offerings or outdoor venues. If you're not coming to see the museum itself but want to make use of these spaces, or if you were at the museum and the last thing is you're visiting those spaces and want to go straight outside, you can then go through those carved pathways within the hill. Now, touching on some of the considerations we kept in mind while designing the landscape for this project, the idea was that most of the planting species that were selected were, if not all of them, are native/adaptive, which means they require less maintenance, they grow healthier around here, they're more built for this kind of weather, and they don't take a lot of irrigation water. Being the trees for shade or for feature, as well as shrubs, grasses and ground covers. We also were a bit limited in the variety that we could use within the system that was created for the mountains and the hills. We were already testing boundaries with this system, and we wanted to make sure there was no place for failure. It had to 100% work. So we had to be very conservative in the selection. However, we've ensured that there is good biodiversity there that then sort of aesthetically creates this sort of variance that doesn't become boring and all one thing. And in terms of sustainability, it ensures the longevity of the project's planting grounds. This is, in a nutshell, a glimpse about the Museum of the Future. I highly encourage you to visit the project, and I hope you like it. Our next project is in a completely different setting. It's a very exciting one. It's called MER. It's a beachfront project, multi-purpose, retail, hospitality, leisure, public realm, you name it. It's meant for all age groups. What we aim to do around here is embed the sustainability and our design principles, yet achieve a storyline that makes it more exciting. So basically, taking you from the city life and then going to the Dubai Beach Road, and then you enter into a timeline of things. The project was meant to be as if it was a beachfront town that evolved over time, and you can see this in all the tiny details that made up the mood that you will experience around there. This is what you would think the beach town would look like. So these are the more internal spaces. And you'll see that the architecture and the lighting, they're following the same storyboard. So it's all well coordinated in terms of design as well. You'll see the way the letters of cinema is written, the old bells, the rustic facades and metalwork, the clocks. Everything is aiming to the same principle, and on projects like this, the devil's in the detail. So you can see in the hardscape different types of paving, and sometimes it's not paving, it's just in situ concrete, sometimes it's big flagstones, sometimes it's smaller ones, in other areas it's timber. It's meant to show that it was something, and over time part of it got ruined or developed because of different type of vehicles or usage, and how the different layers were utilized over time. This shows you the zoning. So the blue area is the sea, and then it's divided into MER South and MER North and MER Central. MER Central is mainly the area that pokes into the sea, is a water park. It's called Laguna. And then on MER South and MER North, the programs are similar, yet there are subtle differences, where you go from the road through retail, beachfront F&B, and then the beach walk and beach. So going to the master plan on the next slide, this shows you how the zoning was designed. So the water park in the middle, and there is a trail leading to it. All the white boxes that you see are small architectural forms that house the retail, F&B and other beachfront businesses. On the far left, there is a hotel/resort, and on the far right, there is also a hospitality offering. Now, this shows you a zoom in, if you look at the plan on the right, how you went from the very infrastructure-like roadway to a more jagged edge buildings to a less uniform line as you go on the other side of the building towards the beach, and then you go into a very holiday-like beachfront meandering path as you go to the beach, reflecting the waves of the sea. So it goes from rigid lines all the way to informal meandering paths. You'll see how the MER North is, the plazas or public spaces are going from, when you're coming from the road, they're a little bit more urban, organized. Even the planters are sort of geometric. However, we've embedded, if you look at the benches, they are made out of reclaimed wood. All the metal works are made out of corten. As you go to the beach, all the planters are informal. You've got the boulders on sides. You've got surfboard-like features. You've got sort of offerings, kiosks and food trucks. And then you've got those sort of like cabanas, which are the colored house-like features. Those are changing rooms. They add to the sort of like the beach effect. The colors also add to the scenery. Now that's going from the F&B to the beach sand, and how the transition into the sand from the planters is very gradual, and how the walkways, they're divided into two walkways. One is the one on the far right, which is in situ concrete, and we've slid it into the sand so the sand can creep on it a bit. And then if you go a step further, then there's a timber deck. You'll also see that, again, the details that are there, whether it's the bench, whether it's the drawings or motifs on the floor, and in some other areas you'll see a mooring bollard, boulders, old barrels, things that have been reclaimed from the beaches of Dubai and the Fisherman's Wharf. Also, it's not very obvious, but you'll see the light fittings. They're all working along the same rustic storyline. You'll find that even on the facades, graffiti works, the doorways, they are rustic. The whole thing is seamless. You find water features that are like dry deck. Kids love to splash down there. Light fittings, you can see on a small, as if it's artwork on the far right, bottom right, there's this truck as if it's been there for ages. This goes a little bit into the detail design, considering how the plants will grow, the height of the plants so that the pathways do not sink in, and then how it's all supported. If you see all the details, they've got openings, so it's permeable hard surface, letting all the water drain back into the ground as part of the sustainability drive. You'll see this is just a view of the lifestyle that goes around there. The play features are all tying in with the reclaimed idea. You'll find that as if there were rails long time, and those rails have been decommissioned, and in this particular instance it's been decommissioned and it dives into the sand with the cart still left there as an art feature. Some of the elements here are reclaimed from the local Fisherman's Wharf, some are reclaimed from elsewhere. I have to say, looking at the team working on this project, the spirit was carried out from the beginning to the end, with all those principles being sustainability, a playfulness, interest, view angles, coordination with how the users, from whether local or tourists, international tourists, or people coming for F&B or coming for the beach, how they can all work together in a very joyful environment. And I think this project is a very good reflection of how that can happen. I really encourage you to pay it a visit if you can. All right, thank you very much everyone, and looking forward to any queries or comments. Hi, I'm Hani Bisada.
Hello. Hi, Hani, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
That was wonderful in terms of the variety of the projects, and very two diverse projects. I have visited both, and it was exciting actually to also see how it actually got done. The first one was simply a beautiful unison of united combination of the building and the lifted landscape, and both of them is working out to be a wonderful piece of land art. And the simplicity, the restraint, and everything is so nice in terms of details. Also your soil nailing details which made it happen. The second one is so vibrant and it's almost like a film set. So my personal question is it like that the vision was entirely conceived by Cracknell, or also there was an artist involved in the visioning process of MER? It's looked like one of the beautiful film sets.
Basically, that's a good question, actually. The initial idea, it was what happens here in projects like that, especially by that client, which is really good, and most projects we've done with them, several around here, is that in the beginning they hire someone who puts together sort of like what will make people come to this place. There are a lot of beaches, what will make this different? And they create sort of a brief or a brand, and everything has to tie around that brand. So they came up with this story of the layered approach of time zones and that kind of rugged beach effect, and they even had the color schemes. It goes into everything, the branding, the colors. So the architects are affected by it, we are affected by it. So we all follow this kind of principle that ensures that they'll get marketing-wise good footfall and achieve the client's interest. So that part of like the initial spark comes usually from these companies. They put a strategy, and we all design creatively around the strategy to make sure that it works.
Thank you so much. Also, the woodwork which is used, which is working against the weathering of the salinity, is it real wood? It actually, everything right from the poles, the ropes, and everything is wonderful crafted. So we would like to know more about the details. I've got one question from Ravi. Ravi, over to you.
Yeah, hi, my name is Ravi. I'm an architect from Bangalore, Bombay. I practice out of India. I've been to both of your projects. MER is fantastic. It's organic, and it's kind of naturally spreads through the whole fabric of people and experience and the natural phenomena that sort of hybrids around itself. So that's spectacular. It's a great placemaker. People come there and obviously feel completely at home. It's a great place. But when I look at your Museum of the Future, obviously the ideation of that project was to make believe what the world will be 2030, 2040, 2050 or something like that. And the nature of the whole structure and architecture definitely sort of represents a direction of such an idea, including the interior. But I'm sure you were introduced to the project completely in all its idea. When I look at the landscape, my question is, do you think there is a certain opposition to that whole experience of the future? Or because it's completely contrasting as an arrival experience from the outside to the inside? As my reading of it, I want your comment on that. And also more and more, I've worked with Bill Bensley, Made Vijaya, some of the projects that we worked with Shma. So more and more you read that the agenda of sustainability and the future matrix of how landscape has to reciprocate with nature has to be natural rather than build up a green wall or build artificial mounds, and they tend to not live its life cycle. They tend to not survive the test of time. They become installations for a certain period of time and not grade itself to become icons which will be sort of revered for 100 years. So do you see any challenge in such kind of landscape installations and the ethos of making artificial grounds and artificial contours?
Well, that's very good. That's very good insight into those projects. Basically, if you look at Museum of the Future, you can divide it into a few sectors. Number one is the sustainability of the landscape, and that it will look, number one, it will be sustainable maintenance-wise and usability-wise, the resources and what may be. Number two, it would look as good as it looks today, 10, 20, 30 years down the line, or even more. So we had to consider that aspect. Number two is, of course, how you utilize the landscape, so the purpose of the project. And number three is the coordination with the architecture and how the whole project as a whole project, utility, structure, everything works together to a single target. So the first one, with regards to sustainability, that's why I touched base on the systems that we looked at. As you said, planting around here in the Middle East has proven to be, you have to be very selective of the plant species. So we have here, we created our own reference to what plants we can use, how we can use them, what sort of maintenance. And we've even worked with the nurseries and local farmers around here to make sure that this is the case. Hence, the selection of the plants we cannot basically risk failure on this project. The selection had to be very conservative. So not a huge selection, and they all work well around here. We know that for 20, 30 years, that those are safe choices. Now, with regards to the system, again, as I said, the green wall, as good a system as it stands, it needs a lot of maintenance in order to look good, and that's not what we're looking for. So we could have used a green wall, but that would have defied the purpose. Hence, we had to find an alternative system that is not a flat ground. It can shape itself to cover the building, but it again addresses the longevity of the project. And looking at those systems, we went through a lot of groups. This was one of the biggest exercises. And hence, this addresses your question with regards to, will this live? Yes, as far as I'm concerned. The system itself and the technology, I didn't go into how the cups work and how the water is retained in every point for a certain number of hours or this way. So it is all well studied, and also the maintenance cycles of looking at those and making sure that they're always intact have been provided as well. So this part has been considered. Also, the coolness of how you're covering this mount with a softscape that lessens the air conditioning load on the building inside. This all works together. As I said, all aspects of the project have to work to the same target, not each one alone. With regards to the usability, of course, the open spaces, the entry points, again, you're getting footfall, you have to understand the demographic, the connections from the metro stations and public transport. This was key. Again, it works basically for tourists, residents, and sustainability-wise, so it's not to encourage everyone to come by car. So, and there are coach drop-offs as well to those areas. So these are the aspects the main aspects that we were thinking of. And the third one was basically the shape, the weird looking shape above, that nothing would challenge that. So it's like if you put too many cluttery looking shapes and things, so we had to make it very subtle surrounding that shape.
Hani, we are short of time, but we have a very to-the-point question, and most probably a very quick answer to that, Sujata.
I've always admired Cracknell's work. You guys do a lot of urban level projects. So I just wanted to know that in terms of the different projects that you have, Dubai, they have wonderful projects, but they themselves are complete on their own. For example, MER, you can say, is kind of integrated with the environment, as my earlier question, the person who asked the question also said. But this Museum of Future or some other projects, even that Burj, so they are like projects by themselves. So do you guys think of integrating these projects and maybe influencing, as such a big urban design landscape firm, to integrate these large projects into the fabric of the city? Because Dubai is a very unconnected city, you can say, because of these highways cutting through. I understand it's not a very walkable city, but still the connections could be there in some way. So the project that you showed, the first project, it was looking like a green island in the middle of all concrete. Yeah.
That's another good observation and something that we care about. Yes, Dubai is like downtown where you have Burj Khalifa. We created the whole landscape for this area and it acts as a single master plan. You'll find Dubai is a series of oases, and currently what we're looking into, spot on, we're studying that with the local government, how to ensure that was supposed to be urban planning in the first instance, but didn't happen. So we're studying how to ensure connectivity across the whole city, pedestrian and cycle ways, to make sure that this issue is addressed. So good observation, but yes, this is in motion now.
Thank you. I wish I could meet you last month when I visited, but very soon look forward to meet you, Hani, and definitely in the next event we want to call you over here physically into this event. Thanks for your wonderful presentation, and big round of hand for Hani Bisada. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone.